most of us are able to find a way to have a godly perspective on our pain, at least for a moment. But when the pain continues, when the suffering goes on day after day, it starts to get kind of hard to really believe that God knows what He's doing. And we can easily start to believe the lies that say that God doesn't care, or that He's not just, or that He's not fair in the way that He's running our lives. And when we get to that place, we are on the edge of territory that's very dangerous to our faith. It even happened to Job. Early in Job, he stood firm. Even when he lost everything, he said, "The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And it says in the midst of his pain during that time, he didn't sin even once with his tongue. But as time goes on, Job becomes more and more confused with why all this stuff is happening to him, with why the Lord is bringing so much pain into his life. Because remember, he had this idea that in this life, God repays the sinful with suffering and the righteous with blessing. And Job knows he's a righteous man, so why all of this? Does God not care? Doesn't He see? Is He being unjust with Job? Is He just playing some kind of divine game with Job's life? Job has so many questions and complaints because his circumstances don't fit what he thought about the way that God works. He refers to God as his adversary. He says God is crushing him without mercy. He says if only he could present his case before God, he knows that he would be declared innocent. The suffering begins to weigh so heavily on Job because he is thoroughly convinced that he doesn't deserve it in any way. And at this point in the story, it seems that maybe Job's real problem is not trying to figure out why God allows the righteous to suffer. Job's real problem might be his own self-righteousness. That might actually be the whole goal of what God's doing in Job. Maybe what God is really doing is dealing with Job's self-righteousness to take him beyond a life of trying to earn God's favor and leading him into a life of finally recognizing God's grace. Maybe that's why we struggle so much with our ongoing pain as well, because underneath it all, we believe that we deserve better. Chapter 35, Elihu rebukes Job for thinking that he did everything right, and therefore that God is the one who's not acting rightly. The other three friends were telling Job that he sinned, and because of his sin, God responded by bringing suffering into his life. Elihu is telling Job that he had suffering in his life, and he's responding by sinning with his tongue against God. So he rebukes Job, and at the end of chapter 36, he tells him, you need to be careful with your words and remember who is really God. And in a preview of what the Lord will tell Job over and over in the next few chapters, Elihu says, can anyone really understand the ways of God? Can we figure out how He makes it rain? Can we understand the method behind making thunder and lightning? Can we know how when it rains, God sends it at just the right time and gives just the right amount in order to provide for everything on earth? In verse 22, he says, Job, God is exalted in power above everything. Who is there that can teach him what's right and what's wrong? Who laid down the law that God has to follow so that then he can say, look, God, you're not doing things the way that you're supposed to? What Elihu is telling Job is simple. He's saying, Job, you are way out of your league here. A mere man proposing to tell God how He ought to run His world. He's saying to Job what we've been saying throughout this journey through the Bible. We get ourselves into all kinds of trouble when we try to sit on a throne that's way too big for us. We need to yield that throne to the only one that it was made for, and we need to simply trust God to be God.